Greetings and welcome back to the Galley of the Sun. So tomorrow we're going to have smoked crispy pork belly. That means tonight we have a little bit of work to do. So first thing we're going to do, I have this slice of pork belly. There's no way that you're going to get a slice this shape from your butcher unless you ask specifically for it. You're not going to see this on the meat counter. So if you've already seen the Chacroute Garnet video, you know my story. We were at the meat store getting ribeyes and briskets, and for the first time we saw that they had pork belly, and we thought, it's time to make some whiskey flavored bacon. So without even thinking, we grabbed a hunk of pork belly from the bin that said skin off pork belly. We get home and it's skin on pork belly. So skin on pork belly is fantastic, but not for making bacon. It's an incredible pain in the you-know-what. So what I needed to do was figure out ways to use up this pork belly. I cut a 5-pound hunk off, and I do have plans for that later. Then the remainder of it, I cut in about 2-pound strips. So that's what I have right here. First thing I want to do is cut this in half, just to make it more manageable in the last step tomorrow, and you'll see what I'm talking about. So we'll get that cut. Next thing I need to do is get the skin scored. That may sound dirty, but no, it's a cooking technique. Is cut into the skin and then go into the fat, but not take those all the way down to the meat, real close to each other all the way across. It's easier if you see it. So here we go. You need a very sharp knife for this. Do not use a dull knife or you'll be missing fingers. All right, so cutting it like that, it's going to do a couple things for me. It's going to allow me to get salt down into that fat to help with our process, and it's going to allow me to get crispy skin, which we'll do in the last step of this whole recipe. So now I got to do the same thing to the other side. Now we have 2 more things we have to do tonight, and we got to be careful with this first one. We're going to take a mixture of 2 tablespoons of brown sugar and 2 tablespoons of kosher sea salt, and we're going to apply that to the bottom and the sides only of this pork belly. We are not going to get it on the skin. If we do that, then we're going to end up burning things, and we don't want that. Let's get that rub on. I want to be very careful about this and not drag my skin through a spot on the cutting board that is covered with brown sugar and salt. Now I need to go wash my paws to make sure that I don't get any of this brown sugar on the skin. Last thing we're going to do is get salt on the skin side. And we're going to move around the skin a little bit to take advantage of those cuts we made in it to get some of the salt in there. I'm going to do about a ½ teaspoon on each one of these slices of pork belly. And I would guesstimate that each one of these pieces right here weigh about a pound each. One of the things the salt is going to do, besides add flavor to the meat, is it's going to pull out some of the moisture of that skin, which is exactly what we want, because this is smoked crispy pork belly. There we go. Last thing for tonight. Put these 2 beautiful specimens. So today is the pork belly day. When we last left you, we were putting the 2 pork bellies that we'd put the rub on the sides and bottom and then salted the top. We had taken that, put it in a baking dish, put that in the refrigerator. It's been sitting overnight. As you see here, you can't see any salt crystals. You can't see any brown sugar. All of that's been absorbed. So now we're going to take a smoker-friendly baking sheet that I have right here. You can see it's done its time in the smoker. I'm going to put a baking rack on there, which is a tiny bit too small for this pan, but that's fine. It's going to work. The idea is that we're keeping the pork belly out of the rendered fat. And hopefully, We're going to keep an eye on this. We are going to have some liquid rendered pork fat in the bottom of this, and that will help us in that magical last step I keep talking about. So, just going to simply take our pork bellies and lay them here. The smoker is set to 250 degrees. I have hickory pellets in there, so it's going to give us a great flavor. I have 2 of my meter probes from my meter block. What these are wireless temperature probes. The side that gets inserted to the meat is going to give you the meat temperature, and the other side is going to give you the air temperature inside the smoker. So I'm going to get this into each of our pork bellies. I'm going to go in at an angle so I can get it inserted a ways, but make sure I'm in the middle of the meat. Then we're going to set this in the smoker. I expect it to take about 3 to 3.5 hours to get these where we want them, which is about 195 degrees. But really, the temperature isn't the important thing, it is the tenderness of it. I should be able to go out there with some kind of pokey implement and poke them and basically have it feel almost like butter that's been sitting on your tabletop for hours. Because I expect it to take 3 to 3.5 hours, at about the 1.5 hour point, I'm going to go out there and rotate this tray just to make sure I get the most even cooking that I can. We'll see you after these come off the smoker. Just brought the pork belly in from the smoker. It's at 195. It almost at this point looks like a lobster tail. But here's what we need to do. First, we're going to pull out those meter probes, set those aside to wash those. I'm going to take that rack, we'll move it over here to a new pan where they're going to set for a little bit. Now, that rendered pork fat from those pork bellies, we're now going to take that and pour it into a measuring cup. Utilize all that we can. Okay, so that gave me about 1/3 cup. So we're going to top that off with some vegetable oil until we have a cup of oil here between the rendered pork fat and the vegetable oil. And there we go, got a cup. Now that's going to go into my cast iron skillet, and I'm going to put it on medium heat, and we're going to wait till that gets to about 350 degrees. How are we going to know when it's at 350? With my IR gun. Our oil and rendered pork fat is at 350 degrees. Now it's time to add the pork belly, skin side down. We're going to cook it that way for 6 to 10 minutes. Now I have a little bit of curvature in one of them, so I'm going to have to manipulate it a little bit to make sure that that skin is in that hot oil. So you can see with this curved one, I'm having to manipulate it to make sure that that pork skin is in contact with the oil because of the curvature of it. So this one's going to take a little bit longer than the other one. At the 6-minute point, we will take a look at the flatter one and see whether or not that one's done. If your oil stays at around 350, I don't think you'll need to go much more than 10 minutes to get this done. But you absolutely want to take the time necessary to get this pork skin crispy. That is what takes this dish from damn good to out of this freaking world. We'll actually use that other pork belly to get this pork belly sitting in the oil so we can get the skin on that back side crisped up. And if you're using a gas range like I am, check that temperature often, because as you make those minute adjustments, it's going to go up, it's going to go down. You want it right around 350. Yeah, I'd made a minute adjustment with my gas there, and the oil went from 354 to 383. So do keep an eye on it, unless you just need to test every smoke alarm in your house. Okay, let's get that flatter one a look and see where we are after 6 minutes. I'm liking the looks of it, but I think I can go a little bit more. So we're going to go more towards the 10-minute mark on that. So we're going to use that other piece of pork belly to get that sitting to where those are in the oil. These are almost done. As soon as they are, we're going to move them over to our cutting board and let them rest for about 5 minutes. Then we'll slice into these incredible hunks of pork. ready for the carving. Before we do that, if you like what you've seen today, hit that subscribe button. Hit that like button. If you hit the bell, you'll get notified every time a new episode comes out. We really, really like the comments. Is there something you'd like to see us cook? Put that down in the comments. Have you tried pork belly with this method before? Put it down in the comments. Let us know how it went. All right, without further ado, the carving is very easy because we have those slices already in there. That's right where I'm going to cut. Let's give one of these a try. Mmm. Mmm. Absolutely perfect crispiness on that skin. Out of this world. You definitely need to try this. Pork belly, very cheap cut, but it can make some fantastic things. Pork belly, burnt ends, bacon. With the skin off, it makes a great pulled pork. But this is something you definitely want to try. Thank you very much, and until next time, fair winds and following seas.